1.02 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act that a special meeting is being called by the mayor and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Broadview. The meeting will be held at Village Hall and remote locations. Village Hall is 2350 South 25th Avenue, Broadview, Illinois. Today is September 30th, 2020, and the meeting started at 7:30, but we are calling to order at 7:34. Roll call. Trustee Jones. Trustee Jones. Trustee Jones is absent. Trustee Horn.
I'm here, and he may be on mute. His name is showing up.
Trustee Abraham. Trustee Abraham is absent. Trustee Senior.
Here.
Trustee Tierney.
Present.
Trustee Miller. Trustee Miller is absent. Once again, Trustee Jones, are you present? Okay. Madam President, you have a quorum. Can we all please stand or be seated for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, please stand for a moment, pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. Item 2, public comments. Prior to the public comments, I'd like to read this disclaimer. While the meeting is open to the public and public comments are welcomed, in light of concerns related to the spread of coronavirus disease, COVID-19, the meeting will be streaming live online, and the village strongly encourages residents and participants to submit written comments to the village clerk prior to the meeting. Persons will be allowed to make in-person comments if they so desire. However, individuals will be brought into the meeting room one at a time, and all federal, state, and local protocols currently in place to alleviate the spread of COVID-19, including social distancing requirements, will be observed. At this time, Madam President, I have not received anything through the village clerk's email. Do you have anyone present physically in the village chambers?
No.
Okay, thank you. So there are no public comments. Next item, item 3, new business. A, an ordinance of the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois, authorizing and approving a lease agreement by and between the Village of Broadview and the Housing Opportunity Development Corporation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Been properly motioned by Trustee Senior, seconded by Trustee Tierney. Madam President, open for discussion.
Thank you. So first, before we go into discussion, I want to say the purpose of us calling a special board meeting, because now that the seasons is changing and we have this ground lease that we need to ratify so that we can start moving forward with the senior housing development. This ground lease is the lease agreement between the Village of Broadview and the developer. And so I'm going to turn it over to either Attorney Welch or Commissioner Upshaw to tell us more about the ground lease. And then I do believe we do have the developer and their legal team are part of the conversation as well for questions that the Board of Trustees may have. So Commissioner Upshaw or Attorney Welch, you want to take it over?
Sure, I'll begin, Mayor, if that's all right with you.
Yep,
Matt Welch. All right, so this lease, it's a 99-year ground lease whereby the developer is going to construct a 3-story multifamily housing development, which will contain 70 affordable housing units. It's, as I just stated, it's 99 years. The rent is $1. However, the developer is going to be paying taxes throughout the term. The developer has obligations. There's plans plans that the developer has agreed to comply with that David Upshaw will discuss with you when I'm done going through the basic terms of the lease. The owner is is going to provide a construction bond. The funds are going into a construction escrow when this closes, and they've agreed to be obligated to build according to the plans, which are going to be attached as an exhibit. The owner has obligations related to the maintenance and operation of the building to maintain it according to the levels, high level of operation in compliance with all laws, applicable laws, and to maintain it in a similar standard as when it was first constructed. There's all the traditional protections as it relates to environmental issues, things of that matter. And they have to maintain insurance during this entire time and have the village as an additional insured. During the term of the lease, the developer, the tenant, is going to be obligated to solely use this property for the senior housing development. So down the road, it can't turn into something that something outside of what was originally contemplated, unless they receive the written approval and authorization from the village. That is the major terms of the lease. A lot of the other language deals with mortgages and what rights a mortgage holder has in relation to the property in the event of a default by the developer. But those are the foremost business terms of the lease. Are there any questions?
Before we get questions, I believe we had some trustees join the meeting. Mr. Clerk, Trustee Abraham.
Yes, Madam President, please let the record reflect that at 7:38 p.m., Trustee Abraham did enter the meeting. And caller 600-5710, can you identify, please?
That would be Trustee Jones.
Hey, Trustee Jones. So also Trustee Jones did enter the meeting at 7:38 p.m. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay. Trustee Jones?
I'm still reading right now, Madam President. Please pass me.
Okay, Trustee Horn?
For the developer, I have a question specifically for you. I would like to know, how do you intend to acknowledge those seniors that are veterans?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, great. Hi, my name is Douglas Ross with Ross Financial. We're the developer. Thank you very, very much for calling this special board meeting tonight to consider the ground lease. It means a lot to us. We've worked very hard to get to this point, and so has the village for many, many years, really. It's not been easy. But you asked a good question. Veterans have a preference on our wait list. And we were fortunate enough to actually the county has given 18 project-based vouchers. So the county will pay, the tenant only has to pay 30% of their income for rent. The rest will be covered by a voucher. 2 of those vouchers will be solely for veterans, and with the veteran preference, there's a chance that more would be for veterans as well.
Okay. Thank you. The other questions that I have, I'm not sure who they should be directed to, so I'll just let you respond if you're the SME for it. Can you help me understand the way the legislation was written, the way the lease was written? I would want to understand why we are not entering into an agreement where the village is the seller and the developers are the buyer versus a tenant landlord agreement.
Attorney Welch, can you answer that, please?
That was required of the developer. I think it'd be better for him to explain why it was required related to his financing.
Actually, that's not true at all. It was a request of the village to enter into a lease as opposed to purchase.
Okay. So I'll just go, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well,
Can I speak?
yes.
I mean, unless, no, I'm listening to you. So you tell me unless.
So if we were to sell it, we would have to sell it for, the developer was unable to pay any consideration for the property.
Understood. So I will go on record just saying this. I don't think it's in the best interest of the village for us to take the position of functioning as a quote unquote landlord in a landlord tenant arrangement with the developer. It would seem to me that it would be in our best interest to function as the seller of the property, and that the developer would purchase the property and be 100% responsible for all property taxes realized. Thank you.
Is that all you have, Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Just let me know. We are responsible for 100% of the property tax.
Well, according to what was written, it says you're responsible for prorated taxes.
No, trustee, if you look at, give me 1 second.
Yeah, in section 7.2.
7.2.
Yes.
That tenant will pay any and all state and local government ad valorem property taxes on the land and tenant's leasehold estate in the lease premises when the same shall become due and payable, and before any fine or interest. Property taxes will be prorated between landlord and tenant as of commencement date for the year in which the commencement date occurs. So it's only that year, it would be this year, where they've only taken possession for part of the year. So any liability prior to the date they take possession, the village would be responsible, but we're tax exempt. So all it's saying is for this particular year, they would be responsible. Essentially, let's say they close tomorrow, from tomorrow to the end of the year for the 2020 tax year.
Okay. I understand, and I get what's being said. The additional qualifier of prorated to me negates the entire purpose of having a piece of property that we sell to a developer. And so again, I would just emphasize that my position, while I do understand that statement, prorated rent because of the time that is being purchased, et cetera, I don't think that the village entering into a tenant landlord arrangement is in the best interest of the community. So with that being said, I'll end my statement.
Thank you, Trustee Horn. Attorney Vasali would like to add to that.
Sure. I just want to make sure very clear that the terms of the lease are clear, that they are only prorated for that 1 year. And that is standard for essentially almost every commercial real estate transaction that goes on in the state of Illinois. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I would like to respond to that statement. What's not, I don't think is a common thing, is for a village to enter into a tenant landlord arrangement. The fact that we have terms such as rent being paid to the village versus you owning your property and you managing it and paying the property taxes, those are just clear facts that should be in place. The fact that we have multiple statements that in one language implies a tenant landlord arrangement when we make reference to rent versus you paying property taxes, I don't think it's in the best interest of the village. It makes it more convoluted and it makes it have loopholes within it.
Thank you, Trustee Horn. Trustee Jones?
A couple of things. One thing is, originally we had passed legislation to give the developer control of the property with the understanding that they would come back and make a reasonable purchase offer or purchase agreeable price on the property. We did not give them that right to go and seek out the funding and say that they had control of the property based upon us leasing them the property for $1. We have lost the sight of the fact that the village of Broadview expended approximately $2.5 million on the property in the purchase, the litigation, and the demolition of the property that was there before. along with the additional purchase of the rest of the properties over there. So, you know, the idea was to actually sell the property and not become a landlord. That's number one. Number two, the attorney, Mr. Welch himself, talked about a structure 3 stories high. Well, this agreement talks about a 5-story high structure.
Trustee, that was a typo.
Well, it may be a typo, but what we're looking at is a 5-story structure in this agreement.
Yeah, no, that agreement, I'm telling you now, it's a 3-story structure that was updated today. It was caught that it said 5 in the second whereas clause you're referencing. It is a 3-story. It's a 3-story multifamily housing development with 70 units.
Okay. The number 3, I'd like somebody to explain to me how it is that the concept of additional rent. So you've got rent of $1, then you've got this concept of additional rent, which ultimately says that the tenant's responsible, but that the landlord could be responsible for it.
No point.
No.
That's what it says.
No, if there's an amount due, the landlord could pay. If there was something that the landlord or that the tenant had to perform, the landlord has the right to undertake to force that performance, and we could collect the costs we incurred to perform that tenant's obligation as additional rent.
Well, that's not articulated in the agreement.
It is.
Please tell me where I can find that. All I can see is about the fact that there's a possibility of additional rent. And
so if you look at
the landlord could ultimately be responsible for it.
Section 2.1A, the definition of additional rent means all amounts which tenant is obligated to pay under this lease, which if not paid by tenant, may be paid by the landlord.
Exactly. And
all reasonable costs and expenses incurred by landlord in connection with that performance. So those costs that the landlord decides to pay can then be collected as additional rent. So let's say there's a problem on the property and the village, they've put them in breach, but they need to correct a problem and they don't want it ongoing. And so rather than let the problem to continue to exist, we can pay to correct that problem so that it's not having a negative effect on the surrounding area, and then collect whatever we paid as additional rent from the landlord.
Where does it say that we can collect?
It says,
Trustee Jones, it's section 3.5 of the lease. Let me read it to you.
Okay, so you're referring to section 2.1.
Tenant shall pay landlord all additional rent within 6.
Order, please. Attorney,
Section.
Thank you. Tenant shall pay landlord all additional rent within 60 calendar days after landlord has notified tenant in writing of such amount. So when you take 3.5 in conjunction with 2.1, this is a beneficial clause and performance obligation of the tenant and the landlord under the lease. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I've got one more question here. Because I'd like to know why, if it's a senior housing project, do we have to have the term low income included with this? And if we have low income included with this, is there a possibility that there could be low income tenants that are not seniors in the building?
Well, it's affordable housing, and
exactly.
that is related to, again, some of the financing that's involved.
So then what we are really saying is that we are putting affordable housing there and not a senior citizen development.
No, it's a senior citizen development, but it's on an affordable housing basis.
That being said, I go back to my original question. If in fact it's on an affordable housing basis, could there be tenants in there that are not seniors based on the affordable housing law?
No, the obligation is that this be a senior housing development. And that is,
there any place in this contract that says it is restricted to seniors?
yes.
And where?
I'm tracking it down right now. Section 7.10,
Yep.
page 15.
All right, because I was reading and you guys called me earlier. I was still reading. I hadn't gotten
Yeah.
that far.
At all times during the term, the leased premises shall be used by tenant and any other
Okay, I
occupant.
see it. I read it. Yep. Okay.
That's all you have, Trustee Jones?
That's all I have for now. I'm still reading. I was still reading
Thank
when
you,
you
Trustee
called me.
Abraham.
No questions.
Trustee Senior,
No questions.
Trustee Tierney,
Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about this additional rent. What types of objects or work would be done that would be considered?
For an easy example, let's say that over the course of the years, it becomes known to us that the tenant has failed to obtain the required insurance. Okay, the village could go out and obtain that insurance after the proper notices are provided to the tenant of their failure to do it. We could go out and obtain the insurance, and then we could, pursuant to the section, the additional rent section we talked about a couple minutes ago, 3.5, we could then obtain any costs we incurred to perform that obligation of theirs. We could collect that back as additional rent.
Okay, that's all I have.
thank you. Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
I have one additional question as I'm reading here about transfers. So they are permitted to transfer their lease, but the landlord is not. And who is Broadview LP? And why wouldn't we just sell it to Broadview LP and let them go on through the development?
Mr. Ross.
Broadview LP, why would we be allowing the developer to transfer the lease to them and we can't transfer the lease?
Mr. Ross, can you discuss Broadview LP?
Broadview LP, Trustee Jones, is the name of the ownership entity. So that's just the ownership entity's legal name, Broadview Limited Partnership.
So Broadview Limited Partnership, why didn't we just have them do the lease in the first place?
I'm not sure what your question is.
The question is we're getting ready to give this lease to a developer who's going to transfer it to Broadview LP. Why do we have a middle person? Why did Broadview LP just get the lease?
The lease, you're saying, why is it transferred from Housing Opportunities Development Corp to Broadview LP? Is that what your question is?
Yeah.
Okay. Housing Opportunity Development Corp is a non-for-profit corporation. They're a partner in the ownership, and they provide service coordination for the seniors. And so the land is being, donated by the Village of Broadview. It's only a non-for-profit that can receive the donation, and they don't want to hold the piece of property in as a service, non-for-profit. So they put it. They then instantly transfer to the partnership.
So basically what it sounds like is Broadview LP didn't want to pay for the property, so we got a non-for-profit to get the property to transfer it back to Broadview LP. Thank you.
No, that's not really at all how it happens and why it happens.
Well, you guys said that it was not your idea for the lease, but it was the village's idea to give away the lease.
The lease is a different concept from the donation. You can donate the land and it doesn't have to be a lease. You can donate a lease too. I think the concept and maybe others who maybe were before felt that it connects the building and the senior property. It keeps the village more connected to it. And
A
they
$1
didn't look at it
lease
as like as an unrelated development in the community. They have a stake in it, and they should have a stake in it. It's
a
important.
$1 lease is the equivalent of a donation.
Exactly right. It's a donation.
Exactly. So why even put it in the form of lease? Why don't you just say you gave away the property?
Like I said, I'm not sure all the motivations behind that. It can go either way. You could donate the land without donating it as a lease. But this is how it was desired. And it wasn't us that actually made that decision, Trustee Jones. So I can't really opine on that, but it shouldn't really matter because we will own it as if we had purchased the land and were responsible for it.
Yeah, but the
In
village
its
doesn't get
entirety,
any
really.
purchase. But the village does not get any purchase revenue for that, is the point that I'm making. There's no revenue being generated for the sale of the property. It was donated.
No,
and you may operate it
isn't.
as if you purchased it, but you purchased it for free.
Okay, trustee, hold on. So when we talk about partnerships and collaborations, and many years ago when the senior housing, affordable housing came online, there was no success. So when we talk about partnerships and collaboration, this is a partnership, how we received the tax credits. So we donated the land so that we can have a good product for the community at large. So the community has spoke up and said they wanted senior housing. And I remember many years ago when the village chamber was packed with the seniors saying they wanted us to move forward. Now, where we are now is we right here at the finish line to do something really good for the entire community, which is our senior housing project. And so when you talk about the revenues, yeah, we're not making money on the real estate sale, but on the back end, we will be receiving property taxes. We will receive increased sales taxes because of 70 units that's going to be occupied. Those folks will come into town and utilize sales tax as they shop at Walgreens, our Target shopping center, or any restaurant that's on the Roosevelt corridor that's in walking distance. So there's an added value when you work in collaborations, when we work in collaboration with Cook County, who some of those tax incentives came through, or the Illinois Housing Authority, who we receive the majority of our tax credits for. So this is a collaboration for a local, state, and county level. That's all I have to say.
Mayor, and if I could also point out, this is a major project for the community, and as the mayor stated, this is a collaboration. If the village were to sell it, one thing you should be aware of is you are limited then to enforcing your police power. You can only deal with this senior housing center to the extent they are not in compliance with law. This lease holds them, their maintenance and repair and their design. This holds them to much higher standards through the obligations of this lease than if we were limited to solely enforcing village code. So one of the goals is to ensure that the operations of this senior center is as novel and new and well manicured on the 20th year or the 40th year as if it was the first year. And that it was one of the major concerns with, if we just sold this, what would this senior center be 30, 40, 50 years from now? And this gives you additional leverage to ensure this is a top class facility through contractual obligations as opposed to solely enforcing your village code, which is not nearly as extensive as your contractual rights.
Thank you, Attorney Welch. Mr. Clerk.
Point of order, please. I would like to make point of order, please.
Go ahead, Trustee Hoare.
Thank you. I think that was a very well-made statement, and I can understand the intentions behind it and why it was said the way it was. But I would like to make the argument that the owner of the property, the developer of the property, has a stake in running their business in an effective way. while it may be in our best interest to have a senior housing development that looks well, that functions well, and at a high standard, it's not our position, it's not our job to function, I believe, as a landlord. That would be putting us in a different role. Some time ago, the comment or the statement was made to me, Verena, you can't run the finances or treat the finances of the village as you would a corporation, because we're a municipality, we're a government. And now I see that we're functioning in a capacity that takes us out of functioning specifically as a government and putting us in a landlord-tenant relationship. I think that if Mr. Rouse and those that, that's under his leadership and under his guise will run their operation effectively, they will have just as much at stake in it. They will profit from it as well as the village. That's an economic strategy. And so I would just like to make a superseding motion that the information that's presented to us reflects a buyer-seller relationship versus a tenant-landlord relationship. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. It has been properly motioned by Trustee Horn, seconded by Trustee Jones, a superseding motion. And once again, Trustee, can you please restate your superseding motion?
I would like to make a superseding motion that the information presented to us in the legislation reflects the village as a seller and the tenant as a buyer.
So noted for the record. Madam President, would you like a roll call in this?
Yes.
Okay, we'll have a roll call now on the superseding motion.
Wait, excuse me, Clerk McGreer.
Yes,
If we're going to be changing, can I please be identified, Madam Mayor and Clerk McGreer? They want to change the language of a legal contract that's in front of us now. Or, I mean, I don't understand, why are we changing the language at the 9th hour when this could have been either discussed with our attorney as well as their attorneys to see the proper language. I don't think I'm not in a position to vote on changing language until I obviously do my research. Obviously, it looks like these others have been obviously looking line by line, but they didn't share it with the rest of us. That's how I feel, Madam Mayor. I think it's out of order. I'm against it. I'd rather hear from our legal department first.
Okay.
Is that possible?
Mr. Clerk, there's a superseding motion on the floor. Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, you can, Madam President. This is the roll call vote for the superseding motion. Trustee Horn.
Yes, please.
Trustee Horn votes yes. Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Jones votes yes. Trustee Tierney.
No.
Trustee Tierney votes no. Trustee Senior.
No.
Trustee Senior votes no. Trustee Abraham.
No.
Trustee Abraham votes no. Trustee Miller is absent. And let me just confer with our attorney. Mr. Attorney, do we need a vote from the mayor or no?
No, we do not. Motion fails.
Madam President, this superseding motion fails 3-2. Would anyone like to make another motion?
Like to make a motion, we go ahead with the original motion to approve it.
Second.
Been properly motioned by Trustee Tierney, seconded by Trustee Abraham to go ahead with the original motion. Madam President, would you like further discussion?
No, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, you can, Madam President. Trustee Horn.
No.
Trustee Jones.
No.
Trustee Tierney.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Miller is absent. Again, Mr. Attorney, do we need another vote?
The mayor votes.
Mayor Thompson.
Vote on an ordinance, the mayor would vote.
Madam President.
Yes.
And this vote carries 4-2. Thank you, Madam President. Okay, so next we have on the agenda, give me 1 second. Village Clerk, item 4, I have nothing. Madam President, item 5, you're coming.
I have nothing.
Can we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Been properly motioned by Trustee Tierney, seconded by Trustee Senior to adjourn the meeting. All in favor? I'm sorry, let me take a roll call for that. Trustee Horn.
Yes.
Okay, trustee Jones.
Probably gone.
Trustee Jones, go ahead.
Don't see him.
Trustee Tierney?
Yes.
I'm sorry, trustee Senior?
Yes.
Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Trustee Horn?
Well, I thought I already said yes. You called me
I think
initially.
she did.
All right, and trustee Miller is absent. We are hereby adjourned at 8:10 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Good
night,
night.
everybody.
Have a good one.
Good night.